How to never get angry or bothered by anyone. Eckhart Tolle. There's something inside you that feeds on conflict. It's like a hidden program running in the background, waiting. It waits for someone to say the wrong thing, to look at you the wrong way, to challenge your sense of self. And when that moment arrives, it wakes up instantly. Your heart races, your jaw tightens, words form in your mind before you can stop them. You feel yourself being pulled into a reaction that you did not consciously choose. It feels almost automatic. This is what I call the pain body, or what some might call your emotional baggage. And until you understand how it operates, you will spend your entire life in being controlled by other people without even knowing it. Today, I want to share with you the most important insight that can free you from this prison. The realization that no one has ever made you angry, no one has ever bothered you. These are things that happen inside you, not to you. When you truly understand this, something extraordinary happens. You discover an inner space that no external circumstance can touch. You find within yourself an unshakable peace that does not depend on how others behave. It's like finding an oasis of calm and in the middle of a storm. But let me be clear from the beginning. This is not about suppressing your emotions. It's not about pretending that nothing affects you. It's not about becoming cold or indifferent. It is about something far more profound. It is about discovering who you really are beneath the reactive patterns that have controlled you your entire life. It's about peeling back the layers and to reveal your true self. Let's begin with a simple observation. Think of the last time someone made you angry, really angry. Perhaps it was your Aunt Carol, who always has something to say about your life choices. Perhaps it was a road rage incident with some guy cutting you off on the freeway. Maybe it was that backstabbing coworker who took credit for your work during the big presentation. Whatever it was, recall that moment now. Notice what happened inside you. There was a trigger, yes, something that person said or did. But then there was a response, and that response did not come from nowhere. It came from something within you that was waiting to be activated, like a dormant volcano, ready to erupt. Here is the crucial question. If someone else made you angry, why does the same situation not make everyone angry? Why can the same words that devastate one person leave another person completely unaffected? The answer is simple, but revolutionary. Your anger is not caused by what happens outside you. Your anger is caused by something inside you that interprets what happens as a threat to your sense of self. It's all about perception. This inside thing, this emotional baggage, this pain body, is an accumulation of old emotional pain that lives in your body and your psyche. It was created from all the times you were hurt, rejected, criticized, abandoned, or made to feel not good enough. Every painful experience that was not fully faced and accepted at the time left an energetic residue. And this residue did not disappear. It accumulated. It merged with similar painful residue from other experiences. And over time, it became an entity in its own right, an entity that has its own agenda, an entity that needs to feed on more pain to survive. It's like a parasite, feeding off your negative emotions. When someone says something that resonates with an old wound, the pain body wakes up. It takes over your thinking. It takes over your emotions. It takes over your words and actions. And in that moment, you are no longer present. You are possessed by an old pain that is using the current situation to create more suffering. This is why the same trigger that makes you furious might not affect your friend at all. Your friend does not have the same wound that the trigger is pressing. The trigger only has power because something inside you responds to it. I want to give you, say, another example to make this even clearer. Imagine two people walking down the street. A stranger passes by and mutters something insulting under their breath. The first person hears it and immediately feels rage rising. Their face flushes, Their fists clench. They spin around, ready to confront the stranger. Their entire day is ruined by this brief encounter. The second person hears the same words and from the same stranger, but their response is completely different. They notice the words. They feel a slight disturbance in their field of awareness, but it passes through them like wind through leaves. Within seconds, they have forgotten it and continue on their way, their inner peace undisturbed. What is the difference between these two people? The external situation was identical. The same words were spoken. The same tone was used. Yet the internal experience was completely different. The difference is not intelligence and it is not willpower. It is not that one person is strong and the other is weak. The difference is that one person had a wound, that those words pressed, and the other did not. Or perhaps more accurately, the second person had learned to observe their wound without being controlled by them. They've learned to manage their emotional baggage. Now this might sound like, I am blaming you for your reaction. I am not. You did not consciously create your pain body. It was formed through experiences that were often beyond your control. Perhaps you were criticized constantly as a child. Perhaps you experienced loss or abandonment at a young age. Perhaps you grew up in an environment where your emotions were not allowed or validated. None of that was your fault. But here is the liberating truth. Even though you did not create your pain body, you can become aware of it. And the moment you become aware of it, you are no longer completely identified with it. A space opens up between you and your reactions. And in that space lies your freedom. Let me give you a practical example of how this works. Imagine someone criticizes your work. In the past, your reaction might have been immediate anger or defensiveness. Your pain body would have been triggered instantly, and you would have found yourself thinking thoughts like, who do they think they are? Also, they have no right to say that to me. You might have responded with harsh words or silent resentment, but now, imagine the same situation with awareness. Someone criticizes your work. You notice that something is happening inside you. You feel the energy rising. You feel the thoughts starting to form. But instead of being swept away by these reactions, you observe them. You say to yourself, there it is. The pain body is being triggered. These are old feelings coming up. This is not really about what this person said. This is about an old wound being pressed. In that moment of recognition, something miraculous happens. You create a small distance between yourself and the reaction. You are no longer completely lost in it. You can still feel the energy of the emotion, but you are now watching it rather than being it. This does not mean the emotion disappears instantly. It might still be there, but its grip on you loosens. You have a choice now. You can respond consciously rather than react unconsciously. You can speak from presence rather than from pain. This is not suppression. This is freedom. When you suppress an emotion, you push it down and pretend it's not there. That only gives it more power. The emotion goes underground and waits for another opportunity to erupt. When you are present with an emotion, you acknowledge it fully. You feel it completely, but you feel it as the witness, not as the one who is identified with it. You hold it in the light of awareness, and that light gradually transforms it. There's an ancient teaching that says, what you resist persists. What you fight against, you strengthen. What you try to push away, you keep in your experience. But what you embrace with acceptance and awareness gradually loses its power over you. Consider water. If you try to hold water in a clenched fist, it escapes through your fingers, and the tighter you grip, the more it slips away. But if you open your palm and allow the water to rest there, it stays. Emotions work the same way. The more you try to control them, suppress them, or fight them, the more power they have over you. But when you open to them, when you allow them space, without grasping or pushing, they naturally find their balance. This principle applies to everything in life, but especially to anger and disturbance. The person who spends their energy trying not to be angry is actually constantly focused on anger. They are in relationship with anger all the time. Their avoidance keeps the anger alive. This is why people who try to never get angry, by suppressing their anger, often become the angriest people of all. The pressure builds and builds until it explodes in destructive ways, or it turns inward and becomes depression, illness, or chronic bitterness. Think of that uncle at Thanksgiving, who's always holding something back. The path I'm pointing to is different. It's not about never feeling anger. It's about not being controlled by anger. It's about maintaining your inner alignment, even when anger arises. It's about letting the emotion pass through you, rather than getting stuck in you. Now, let me address a question that often comes up at this point. Does this mean we should allow people to treat us badly? Does becoming less reactive mean becoming a doormat? Does inner peace require us to accept abuse or injustice? Absolutely not. In fact, the opposite is true. When you are reactive, you're not really responding to what's happening. You're responding to your emotional baggage, being triggered. Your perception is distorted by old emotions. Your actions are not effective because they come from unconsciousness rather than clarity. When you're present and non-reactive, you see the situation more clearly. You can take appropriate action without being blinded by emotional turmoil. You can set boundaries firmly, but without malice. You can say no from a place of self-respect rather than from wounded ego. Think about it. When you're angry, are you at your most intelligent? Are you at your most perceptive? Are you making decisions that serve your highest good? Usually not. Usually, anger narrows your perspective. It makes you see the other person as an enemy. It activates the primitive fight-or-flight response in your brain. It bypasses your higher cognitive functions. You become reactive rather than responsive. But when you're present, you have access to a deeper intelligence. You can see multiple perspectives. You can respond in ways that are actually effective. You can communicate without creating more conflict. I've seen this countless times. People who master the art of non-reaction become more powerful, not less. They become clearer in their communication. They become more respected by others. They become more effective in achieving their goals. And most importantly, they become free from the exhausting cycle of emotional reactivity. There's a story I want to share with you. A Zen master and his student were walking through a village when they encountered a man who began insulting the master loudly. He called him names. I questioned his teaching and tried in every way to provoke a reaction. The master listened quietly, nodded occasionally, and when the man finished, continued walking. Later, the student asked the master, "How could you just stand there while that man insulted you so viciously? Why did you not defend yourself?" The master replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The student thought for a moment. "To the one who offered it, I suppose." The master smiled. It is the same with anger and insults. When someone offers you their anger and you do not accept it, it remains with them. It is not yours, unless you take it. This simple story contains the essence of what I'm teaching you. You do not have to accept what is offered to you. Anger, criticism, negativity. These are gifts that you can decline. They only become yours when you pick them up and carry them. The man in the village was suffering. His insults were an expression of his own pain. The master understood this and felt no need to react. He could see that taking the insults personally would only create more suffering, both for himself and for the other man. By not reacting, he broke the cycle. Let me share another crucial insight about this. When someone behaves in a way that seems designed to provoke you, what is really happening? What is going on inside that person that makes them act this way? Here's what you must understand, and people who are hurtful, critical, or antagonistic are always acting from their own pain. Always. No exception. A person who is at peace with themselves does not feel the need to attack others. A person who is secure in their own worth does not feel the need to diminish others. A person who is connected to their own deeper being does not feel the need to project their unhappiness onto the world. When someone criticizes you harshly, they are revealing their own inner state, not your worth. When someone tries to make you feel bad, they are actually expressing their own internal suffering. When someone is rude or aggressive, they are showing you how much pain they carry inside. This is not to excuse harmful behavior. People are still responsible for their actions. But understanding this changes how you receive the behavior. Instead of taking it personally, you can recognize it for what it is. A symptom of that person's own suffering. And something interesting happens when you see it this way. The sting goes out of it. It's hard to stay angry at someone when you realize they are acting from their own wound. Compassion becomes possible. When you see that the attacker is actually the one who is suffering most. This does not mean you must stay around people who treat you badly. Sometimes, the wisest response is to remove yourself from a harmful situation, but you can do so without hatred. You can set boundaries without resentment. You can protect yourself without losing your peace. Let's go deeper now into the practice of non-reaction. The key is what I call the gap. The gap is that small moment between stimulus and response. In that gap lies your entire freedom. Most people have no gap at all. Stimulus and response happen simultaneously. Someone says something offensive and the anger arises immediately. There is no space, no choice, no awareness, just automatic reaction. But the gap can be cultivated. With practice, it can be expanded, and as it grows, your freedom grows with it. Here's a simple practice for developing the gap. The next time you find yourself in a situation that would normally trigger you, pause before you respond. Take one conscious breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the sensations in your body. Be aware that you are aware. This pause might only last a second or two, but in that second, something profound happens. You step out of complete identification with the reaction. You become the one who is witnessing the reaction, rather than the one who is lost in it. At first, this might only happen after the fact. You might react automatically and then realize later what happened. That is fine. Even that delayed recognition is valuable. It means you are becoming more aware. With practice, you will catch yourself earlier and earlier. You will notice the trigger as it is happening. You will feel the reaction arising and have the presence to watch it rather than be swept away by it. Eventually, you might reach a point where the trigger no longer triggers you at all, not because you have suppressed anything, but because the wound it was pressing has been healed through awareness. I want to be very specific here about what this looks like in daily life. Let's say you have an Aunt Carol who always has something to say. Every Thanksgiving, she makes some comment about your weight, your love life, your career choices. In the past, these comments would ruin the entire holiday for you. You would go home and replay the conversation in your mind for days. You would compose imaginary arguments where you finally said what you really thought. Now imagine approaching this same situation with presence. You arrive at Thanksgiving dinner. Aunt Carol makes her usual critical comment. But this time, instead of the immediate contraction in your chest, you notice something different. You see the comment coming, almost in slow motion. You feel the old wound being pressed. You sense your emotional baggage stirring, your shadow self attempting to take control, but you do not identify with it. Instead, you observe it. You think, ah yes, here is this old pattern again. Here is the wound from childhood. Here is the part of me that still needs validation from this person. And in that observing, you create space. You might still feel something, a slight discomfort, a mild irritation, but it passes quickly because you are not feeding it with thoughts. You are not adding stories to it. You are not building it into something bigger than it is. And something remarkable happens. You can actually see Aunt Carol clearly now. You can see her own insecurity that drives her to criticize. You can see her own pain that she is projecting. And instead of anger, you might feel something like compassion. Not because you are trying to be spiritual, but because when you see clearly, compassion arises naturally. Let me tell you something important about this healing process. Your wounds were created in the darkness of unconsciousness. The pain was too much to face at the time, so it was pushed into the shadows of your psyche. There it has remained, avoided and unexamined, gaining power through your resistance to it. It becomes a part of your shadow self, a dangerous, unexplored landscape inside you. Healing happens when you bring these wounds into the light of awareness, when you finally turn toward the pain you have been running from, when you allow yourself to feel what you have been afraid to feel. Like exploring the Grand Canyon, facing the awe and fear simultaneously. This is not about dwelling in the past or analyzing your childhood endlessly. It is about being present with whatever arises in the now. Because your emotional baggage, your shadow self, does not live in the past. It lives in the present moment, activated by current triggers, and it can only be healed in the present moment, through the power of your presence. When an old pain arises, you do not need to understand its origin. You do not need to figure out which childhood experience created it. You simply need to be fully present with it, to feel it without running away, to allow it to be without trying to change it. This allowing is not passive. It is the most powerful thing you can do. It is the light of consciousness shining on darkness. And darkness cannot survive in light. There is a phrase I use that captures this: being the space for whatever arises, be the space for it. Do not become it. Do not fight it. Simply be the space in which it arises and passes. Imagine that you are the sky. Clouds pass through you. Some clouds are light and white, some are dark and stormy. But you, as the sky, are not affected by the clouds. You are the space in which they appear and disappear. You do not try to push the dark clouds away. You do not cling to the light clouds. You simply allow them all to pass. Your emotions are like clouds. Anger arises. It passes. Sadness arises. It passes. Joy arises. It passes. None of these emotions are who you are. They are weather patterns moving through the sky of your consciousness. When you understand this, you stop fighting your emotions. You stop trying to have only positive emotions and avoid negative ones. You recognize that all emotions are temporary visitors in the space of your awareness, and this recognition brings a profound peace. You can still feel deeply. In fact, you feel more deeply because you are no longer afraid of your feelings. You can allow sadness to move through you completely without drowning in it. You can allow anger to arise without being controlled by it. You can allow joy without clinging to it. This is emotional freedom, not the absence of emotions, but the end of being imprisoned by them. I want to share one more dimension of this teaching before we close. When you achieve true non-reaction, you do not become cold or distant. The opposite happens. You become more capable of genuine love and connection. Here is why. When you are reactive, your relationships are contaminated by your emotional baggage, by your shadow self. You do not see the other person clearly. You see them through the filter of your wounds. You relate to them from your ego rather than from your essence. When you are present and free from reactivity, you can meet another person in the moment. You can see them as they truly are, and not as a threat or an object. You can connect at a deeper level because you are not protecting yourself constantly. True intimacy becomes possible when you are no longer afraid of being hurt. And you are no longer afraid of being hurt when you realize that your deepest self cannot actually be hurt. Only the ego can be wounded. And you are not your ego. This is the ultimate freedom. Knowing that your true self, your presence, your consciousness is beyond harm. People can attack your opinions, your reputation, your circumstances, but they cannot touch who you really are. When you know this, not just intellectually, but experientially, fear drops away. And with fear goes the need for defense. And with the need for defense goes reactivity. And in its place comes a spacious, peaceful, powerful presence that can embrace all of life without resistance. This is what Eckhart Tolle calls enlightened living. Not perfect circumstances, not a life without challenges, but a life where you remain rooted in presence, no matter what circumstances arise. A life where your peace is not dependent on how others behave. A life where you are finally free. Remember this as you go forward. No one has the power to make you angry. No one has the power to disturb your peace. These are things that happen inside you, and you are the one who can choose whether to feed them or let them pass. Your emotional baggage, your shadow self, is real, and its pull can be strong, but you are stronger. Your awareness is stronger. Your presence is stronger. And every time you choose consciousness over reaction, you weaken your emotional baggage's grip and strengthen your true self. This is not about perfection. There will be times when you get lost in reaction. When that happens, do not judge yourself. Simply notice it as soon as you can and return to presence. Each return is a victory. Each moment of awareness is a step toward freedom. The world needs people who have done this work. People who can be in the midst of chaos without being pulled into it. People who can face hostility without becoming hostile. People who can hold space for healing rather than adding to the collective pain. You can be one of these people, not by trying to change the world, but by transforming your own inner landscape. Not by fighting against negativity, but by dissolving it within yourself. This is the most valuable thing you can do, for yourself and for the world. Practice the pause, cultivate the gap, become the witness of your reactions, and watch as your prison walls begin to crumble, and a vast freedom reveals itself. A freedom that was always there, waiting for you to notice it. Waiting for you to come home.